Hey, what's up, 745 versus Sky in the Sea Line? How you feeling, Katie?
I'm feeling awake.
Me too. For us, it's kind of early in the morning.
In fact, usually it's 7:45 is like PM when we say 7:45. Now this time we're doing it AM.
AM, that's right.
It's yeah, it's quite early.
And especially for a Saturday.
Yeah. But we gotta fit you guys in. So what's been going on with you?
Not much. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I'm on a teen advisory council for like mental health for like the Semel Institute at UCLA, which I mean, not to brag, I think it's like pretty awesome. Some really cool people there. And what's coming up actually is the Gen Z Mental Health Summit, and it's going to be on March 8th. Just putting that out there. It's going to be on March 8th. Highly encourage people to come, show up, support. I'm going to be even speaking on a panel. So yeah, come
Where is
support.
it?
Show. It's going to be on UCLA.
Okay, so
Not
for those
uh,
people in LA, this is for you. Yeah, that's amazing, Zach. So that's
yeah,
happening.
that's yeah, sure. It's good. Definitely. I really hope so.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's see. What's happening in life? Well, Zach and I, our school, yesterday was just National Walkout Day. And we decided that we would talk a little bit about not so much as the actual issue as to what's going on. You're completely valid in well, not valid. You can have your own opinion in all political life, but we just want to talk about teenagers specifically participating in political campaigns and activism. And, yesterday, the whole country walked out. A bunch of private schools in LA walked out, public schools in California, kind of everywhere. People were walking out. People were unsubscribing from organizations or streaming services who send money or collaborate with ICE. So that's like a lot. That's basically all of them, if you're wondering. And people stopped shopping just for a day because obviously it's not sustainable. From like big corporations or Amazon specifically, Whole Foods stuff like that to protest. Nice. And I think like all around we have people, teenagers, deciding that they want to use their voice, and I think that's great.
I agree. I think it's always like kind of nice to get like politically active in your community within like, some within like respectful boundaries.
Yes.
But also at the same time, there are those times when people do kind of step out of their boundary or they don't do enough research or they don't even really know what they're like fighting for, or
Right.
protesting for is the better word.
Yeah. I think the way to combat this, well, first of all, Zach and I always talk about, the news, and we talk about how to stay politically in the know. I think before you go to a protest, learning part is probably gonna be the most helpful to the protest. First of all, you should definitely know what you're protesting. Second of all, just to clarify, it's always been peaceful protests. I can I've been talking about the past ones yesterday were all very peaceful. And then I would say even to go as far as saying you should look at the other side's issue or the other side's point of view. Um, you can see all you want in your own thought bubble, social media, whatever. But again, that's your own thought bubble, so you're gonna see what you want to see. So I think that's a really important to be a moderate in all situations. I think when you get too extremist on either end, it gets a little. Or I'm sure many people will say, no, there's a right and there's a wrong and there's a black and there's a white and the people should be here, they shouldn't, or whatever it should be. The Roe v. Wade should be here or should. But I think that it's everything in this life, especially politically, is all black and white and a mixture, a gray. It's a gray. It's not a black and a white. So yeah, I think you have to get educated. There's just no option. I will say what's interesting about our ICE protests was the fact that there are different rules for private school educators compared to students and compared to public school educators.
That's
Yeah,
what were some of the differences?
right. So for many union agreements in public schools, but I mean, definitely less than private schools have them just because we are not only a school, we're also a business. In our teachers union agreements, they cannot make any political demonstrations. Yeah, that's just not allowed in any way. Really? I mean, how do you get like caught for doing so is up to you. Like, for example, we were told to wear green on the day of our walkout, and teachers can wear green because that might be their favorite color. That might be just the outfit their kids picked out for them today. So it's really hard to like go, oh, that's a political statement. You can't do that, right? Because green is just a green. So unless
Mhm.
it's a very thin line. I think Zach and I school does a very good job of doing a thin line, like a wink almost at teachers, where it's like you can't do it, but like we'll support you, kind of question mark. We'll be lenient because Zach and I's head of school went to the protest.
Yeah. Well, I actually appreciate that fact about our school that a lot of our teachers remain neutral. I don't know. I mean, maybe I think like maybe one of my teachers has like expressed their views, and it's just it was because my Spanish teacher, um, and I think that can be justified.
Yes,
But also, I think I kinda enjoy that aspect of our school. I was talking about this with our history teacher, how that he has to remain neutral, and he both him and I think that's really important, especially from, like, a historical standpoint, because if you're only teaching one side of things, you don't understand the other side and then why you're on your side, if that makes sense, relatively to the
100%.
other side. And also what's funny is the other day we were learning about like the Chinese Exclusion Act. And so just as like an entrance task, we were asked our thoughts on like immigration. And it's just really interesting to see like how people's like opinions like can differ. And I think it's just based on their prior experiences, but also their like knowledge of government and like how the country kind of works. And so I think that it's just like I think that a lot of protesters who like aren't fully like up to speed on what they're protesting on, I think it's just that those are the areas they're lacking in like understanding how the government works and like what makes our country like functional. Because I feel like on online, it's really easy to see some person whip out like a bunch of stats, but that's just a number. Like the greater implication of how it plays into the system, I think is like much more important than just a number. I mean,
100%.
obviously they're important too, but I think you sometimes it's important to take like a step back
Yeah,
and look at
agreed.
the greater picture.
Yeah, and more to that is like where are they getting these numbers? Like you often see on Twitter like all these numbers like oh
Mm.
it was a fact check. And what's important about teachers also being neutral is that you never want a student to feel like if they don't share the same opinion, they would get a different grade. It's
Yeah.
what we call inequity. Because what if the opinion was actually changed? Like obviously, not obviously, but Zach and I go to more liberal school, so the opinion for many is definitely pro the abolishing of ICE. But imagine a world where it wasn't, and you were the one kid who supports the abolishment of ICE. Then you'd feel really awkward, right? So you don't feel this way until it's not your opinion, because I know many students were like, "What the heck? They can't like show their opinion. They can't go to the protest, whatever, whatever." Like, imagine if it was the other way. And some crazy things that happened in history, in fact, was the other way. Okay, so just like it's good to keep that in our minds. But our teachers did stand on the other corner opposite because maybe they were just standing on that corner. They weren't at the protest. So this is another corner, and our head of school was there, and it's a great thing. I think everyone should try it maybe once in their life or just like see it because it's different seeing in photos and like seeing truly like a mass of humans. Zach and I school is not big at all, but like it's like when we see it, it's like, oh wow, we know that that's a lot of people for our school. But yeah, it's really important historically, I think. And
Yeah.
yeah, my a lot of our language teachers definitely had something to say, which I think is valid in their personal experience. What I did like about our history class asking us that question, it just shows that they did a very weird or not weird, sorry. They did a very intricate and like intentional move in asking that question because specifically they cannot talk about it, but they can allow other students to talk about it in class. You can't stop them from doing that, right? So them
Mm.
asking that question was like a weird way of trying to get people to talk about it because half the things is that people just don't understand the issue, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
I think what happened was really important. The last one our school had besides the ICE protests were we had the overturning of Roe v. Wade in like
Yeah.
seventh or eighth grade, which was I would say not as big, like they're not as big for our school, but the best part is that it was seniors who set it up, and this year it is seniors again who just decided, you know what, we have a voice. It's time to freaking use it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was amazing, and we had teachers like my journalism teacher. helped out the process of like sending the emails, checking, and our school and our students like checked with the teachers and whatever. But I just thought overall it was a pretty good experience the whole
Yeah.
summer.
There's definitely, like, an odd sense of, like I don't wanna say power, but, like, I would say, like, force in numbers, you know? Like, when you're collected with, like, a bunch of people here all, like, unified and fighting for the same cause, it does give a very interesting sense of, like, "Wow, we pulled this off," you know? "This is pretty awesome,"
100%.
and I'm super glad that the seniors, you know, organized this and did this because it also just kinda, like, shows them that like they're capable of organizing something like this. And I think that like a lot of people are, and I'm happy that they used their like abilities to communicate and express their rights and freedom of speech.
Yeah, freedom of speech. It's what everyone's fighting for, so might as well use it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely
yeah,
important.
it's for me, well, what in that history class, what stood out to me was actually right before we wrote down our answers, our history teacher was like, let's also keep in mind that immigration policies like in like Asia or like towards the Middle East, those countries have very strict immigration policies and it's very hard to move there if you're not, like the
The
I guess
nationality.
the the nationality. And so keeping that like in mind, we had to answer the question and that gave me kind of a perspective. But then I also realized that like, the United States has been referred to like as a melting pot, like a
Mhm.
significant for a very significant amount of time. So just like where like that, I feel like that separates us as a country based on these rules.
Yeah, and no offense to East Asia and the Middle East, but there I don't think is a country there who is I mean, China, sure. Besides that, like, there's no country at the standard of the US who and even China, like, you have to become a melting pot in a sort of way. Because even
Yeah.
China, who communist country, whatever, they accept at least rich other people because you need the resources, right? And not to get political, but like we tend to bash on the United States a lot, regardless of the melting pot scenario. You tend to bash on the United States a lot, and I don't see Japan getting a lot of hate, right? So it does really bring into perspective just like the different standards we're held to or whatever it is. But I think like getting people thinking in general was like really great for our class too, because I know a lot of people just like don't think of the issue. Because sometimes it doesn't even affect them. Like, what do you mean? We've been in America for the past 200 years. Like I've been here,
Yeah.
right?
200,
Um,
nearly, I guess
yeah,
we're
almost
like 275,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. So that's our little spiel on political activism. I encourage you to look into what you want to support, protest, or whatever, and see if you can join one. I mean, I think the national one yesterday was huge and empowering in every way. There's always small ones, and there's always neighbor ones, and it also doesn't have to be like your national government. It could be like people like protest waste management. Sometimes you could totally do that. People protest their school. So yeah, keep on keeping on and try it out.
Keep on keeping on. Bye.